Hong Kong until further notice. The USPS said the change will not impact the flow of letters and flats from China and Hong Kong. European leaders have warned that US President Donald Trump's threat to impose new tariffs on the European Union could ignite a trade war, causing economic harm on both sides of the Atlantic. Trump's latest warning comes after his administration imposed tariffs on Mexico, Canada and China, signaling that the EU could be next. The situation has raised concerns about the global economic impact of escalating trade disputes. EU officials emphasize that their goal is to de-escalate tensions rather than provoking further conflict.
So we are ready to listen, we are ready to engage, to negotiate in our mutual interest. Having said that, the EU would respond firmly to any trading partner that unfairly or arbitrarily imposes tariffs on EU goods.
European leaders are discussing how to react after US President Donald Trump hinted the European Union could be next to face tariffs. The 27-member bloc has condemned Trump's decision to impose tariffs against Canada, Mexico and China and warned that it will respond firmly if it also becomes a target. DW correspondent Thomas Sparrow now joins us from Berlin for more. Thomas, what could this firm reaction look like?
This reaction, described as firm, could be one similar to the one that Donald Trump has threatened against European Union countries. European Union countries have stressed that they would like to prevent this from spiraling out of control into a possible trade war, that they would prefer to have early negotiations with the Trump administration, that they would prefer to cooperate with the Trump administration on trade rather than have conflict on that area, but that if Trump's decision is to impose tariffs on the European Union, that the European Union will also, from a position of strength, respond. Some officials have cited that that reaction could be biting. And by biting, what they mean is that they would possibly impose tariffs on products that would have an impact in the United States. But again, the main strategy is to prevent this from escalating, and they would prefer, European Union officials, to have early negotiations with their counterparts in Washington.
Now, just how relevant is the trade relationship between the EU and the US?
It is very important indeed from both sides, and that is something that European leaders have vehemently stressed also in the past few days, that it is not only something that may be important from the perspective of Washington or from Brussels, but for both. It is in the interest of both to have a trade relation that is beneficial, that is productive, and that is good for both sides of the Atlantic. However, from the European Union perspective, there's also an interest to make sure that the interests of all 27 union members are guaranteed and respected. And that's why those negotiations, if they do take place between Brussels and Washington, would have to include also the perspectives from different countries within the bloc. The bloc is looking with concern at the latest decisions on tariffs on Mexico, Canada and China, also because they have considerable interests in countries like Mexico, China and Canada. Just to give you one concrete example, there are many German companies in Mexico, and those companies in Mexico have a particular interest when it comes to dealing with the United States. So all this is really a matter that is worrying for many in Europe, and that's why they have been focusing on appeals to try and make the situation de-escalate and to keep that trade relationship, which is extremely important for both sides.
Thomas, thank you. Thomas Sparrow reporting there from Berlin. In other news, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed willingness to negotiate directly with Russian leader Vladimir Putin if it means ending nearly 3 years of conflict.